Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely massive. We're looking at a huge, brilliant tapestry of Chinese mythology. It's not just one single, straightforward story, right? It's a really complex mix of different religions, diverse groups of people, and ancient localized beliefs. This stuff was passed down by word of mouth for centuries, constantly shifting and adapting to the landscapes and the people telling the tales. So let's jump right in and see exactly how these ancient minds tried to make sense of the universe. But before we get into the heavy, cosmic, universe-creating stuff, I've got to hook you with one of my absolute favorite anecdotes from these sources. Have you ever actually wondered why we humans eat 3 meals a day? Well, the ancient myths have an answer for that. The Jade Emperor, who's basically the Lord of Heaven, decided he needed to set some ground rules for us. He figured humans should only eat once every 3 days. Makes sense, right? So he sends a dung beetle down to Earth to deliver this incredibly important message. But the beetle gets completely mixed up on the journey down and accidentally tells humanity to eat 3 times a day instead. And oh boy, this mistake had literally catastrophic consequences. Because the humans heard 3 times a day and immediately started gorging themselves. And naturally, eating that much food means, well, producing a vast amount of waste. Now, at this point in the myth, heaven and earth were actually connected by these massive great pillars. But the smell from all that human waste was so incredibly revolting that the Jade Emperor just couldn't take it anymore. So what does he do? He permanently separates heaven and earth just to escape the stench. He even punished the dung beetle by forcing it to eat exactly what it had caused. Seriously, it is just a hilarious, uniquely biological origin story for the cosmos. Okay, so to make sense of all this, here is our roadmap for today. 1. Cosmic chaos and creation. 2. The birth of humanity. 3. Inventing culture and art. 4. Conquering natural disasters. And 5. The path to immortality. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Cosmic Chaos and Creation. The sources tell us that before absolutely anything else existed, there was just a cosmic egg. And growing inside this egg was Pangu, the very first god and the very first giant. For 18,000 years, he incubated in there, physically pushing heaven and earth apart. We're talking 10 feet higher and 10 feet thicker every single day. But, you know, like all things except the immortals, Pangu eventually had to die. And what's really fascinating to uncover here is that his death wasn't the end of the story. It was actually the ultimate beginning. When he took his final breath, his massive, giant body literally bloomed. It completely transformed into the physical creation of the entire world we see around us today. It is just absolutely amazing to see how the ancient Chinese mapped cosmic anatomy directly onto the tangible geography they saw every single day. Think about it. Panga's left and right eyes, they became the sun and the moon. His blood flowed out and formed the mighty rivers. His breath actually turned into the wind and the clouds. The metals and rocks in the ground, those came from his bones and teeth. And his sweat gave the earth the rain it desperately needed to sustain life. It's just such a beautifully profound way to look at the natural world, literally seeing divinity in every single stone and stream. Section 2. The birth of humanity. According to one major myth, the goddess Nuwa came down to this beautiful earth that Pangu had formed. But she got lonely, so she started hand-molding little people out of yellow earth. Eventually, though, her hands got really tired, so she dipped a leather cord into the mud and just shook it off. And all those flying drops of mud, they became the rest of humanity. Talk about an efficient shortcut. But humanity's survival definitely wasn't a sure thing. There's another wild story about a massive flood that wiped out literally everyone, except for one brother and sister. They knew it was up to them to repopulate the earth. But they were deeply ashamed at the thought of intertwining as siblings. So to figure out if heaven would actually bless this union, they set up 2 tests. First, they rolled 2 millstones down opposite sides of a mountain. Miraculously, they landed perfectly side by side at the bottom. Okay, test 1 passed. Second, they lit 2 separate fires, and the smoke from both intertwined high up in the sky. Heaven had officially given the green light. But then the story takes a massive curveball. When the sister finally gave birth, it was not a baby. It was a giant, spherical piece of flesh. Obviously, the siblings were absolutely devastated. They thought they had totally misread the signs from heaven. But as they're weeping, the goddess Nuwa suddenly appears, filled with compassion. She takes a knife, slices open the spherical flesh, and forms not just one, but many children out of it, successfully ensuring that humanity would survive after all. Section 3. Inventing culture and art. All right, so now that humanity exists, they need tools to actually thrive, right? This is where the culture bearers come in, the folks who gave civilization its defining traits. Let's look at Kanji. He was the historian for the Yellow Emperor, and back then, they relied on knotted ropes to remember history, which, as you can imagine, was getting ridiculously complicated. So Kanji isolated himself in nature and literally invented written characters based entirely on the shapes he saw around him. A simple round circle for the sun, layered strokes to represent rice paddies. You get the idea. But Kanji definitely made a huge misstep. When the creator goddess Nuwa reviewed his brand new written language, she was furious. She realized he had used the root character for female, which is nu, inside words with super negative connotations, words like demon and wicked. So she confronts him directly, demanding to know if he looked down on women. Kanji was deeply apologetic. He instantly picked up his brush and created brand new positive characters, incorporating the female symbol into the words for good and mother. Now, art also held literal, actual magic in these stories. Take the escalating timeline of Young. He was a poor boy who just loved to draw. One night, he's gifted a magic paintbrush in a dream, and suddenly, whatever he paints becomes completely real. It's a total game changer. He selflessly uses it to paint roaring rivers and fresh food for starving farmers. But weeks later, a greedy emperor catches wind of this, locks Young up, and demands he paint a mountain of gold. Young agrees, but he cleverly paints the gold mountain in the middle of a vast, treacherous sea. When the emperor sails out to claim the gold, Young just calmly paints a deadly storm, sinks the ship, and frees the entire land from the emperor's greed. We also see this massive reverence for art in the invention of music. The Jade Emperor tasked a minister named Ling Lun with inventing music itself. Ling Lun started simple. He walked up a nearby mountain and carved a basic 5-hole bamboo pipe. But then he heard it, the breathtaking, complex song of a flying phoenix. Realizing his little pipe was totally inadequate, he combined 12 different pieces of bamboo, of varying thicknesses, so he can match the exact majestic range of that magical bird. It perfectly shows how this culture believed that the truest form of art is just mimicking nature's raw beauty. Section 4. Conquering natural disasters. Because look, early civilization wasn't all just painting and making music. It was a brutal fight for survival. Humans and gods were constantly battling nature. Case in point, in the Earth's infancy, there wasn't just one sun in the sky. There were 10. Normally, they took turns, but one day, they all decided to shine at exactly the same time. Literally, instantly, the Earth turned into a blazing, drying volcano. People were just dropping dead as the entire world caught fire. But humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The great archer Yi was absolutely outraged, so he climbs the tallest mountain he can find. Armed with a magic vermilion bow gifted by a god, he aims straight up at the blazing sky and fires true. He literally shoots down 9 of the 10 suns, snuffing them out completely. He leaves only the single sun we have today, saving humanity from total incineration. And as a reward for saving the world, Archer Yi was handed the ultimate prize, the elixir of immortality. But here's the catch. He didn't want to live forever if it meant eventually watching his mortal wife, Cheng-Yi, grow old and die. So they decided to hide it. Tragically, though, Yi's incredibly jealous apprentice broke in to steal it. To keep this immense, world-altering power out of the hands of a selfish traitor, Cheng-Yi made a split-second, incredibly brave decision. She drank the elixir herself. Instantly immortal, she floated away up to the moon, separated from her beloved husband for all eternity. It's such a bittersweet story, and it's actually the exact cultural origin for why the Moon Festival is celebrated on August 15th to this very day. We see this exact same theme of ultimate sacrifice with Shen Nong, famously known as the first farmer. Shen Nong established traditional healing arts and agriculture, but the way he did it was wild. He literally risked his life daily by eating unknown toxic plants, just so he could classify them for humanity. Which ones were medicine, which were food, which were straight-up poison. He invented the plow and taught agriculture. Eventually, though, his luck ran out, and he ate a toxic herb that finally killed him. But heaven, seeing his incredible selflessness, instantly revived him and granted him immortality. Section 5. The Path to Immortality. So we're zooming all the way in now from cosmic gods to the individual. How does a single person find favor with the gods? We're going to look at a solitary Taoist hermit named Li Tieguai. Li lived a super simple, isolated life in a cave. He grew his own vegetables, read his scriptures, and completely removed himself from the endless busyness and gossip of regular society. But that isolation was about to be put to a major test. Seemingly out of nowhere, a woodcutter visits him and later brings his beautiful daughter, insisting that Li take her on as a student. Then the woodcutter just vanishes. That night, a freezing, violent thunderstorm rolls in, and the girl spends the entire night trying to tempt Li Taiguai. She begs him for warmth, promises to be the perfect wife, and paints this picture of a cozy, wonderful domestic life together. But Li Taiguai, blushing but absolutely resolute, just rolls over into the freezing cold corner of the cave and stays completely true to his studies. Well, plot twist. The very next morning, the woodcutter returns and drops his disguise. It was Lao Zi, the immortal founder of Taoism. He had orchestrated that whole crazy thunderstorm scenario as step 1 to test Li's ability to resist physical temptation. But he wasn't done. Step 2 was all about resisting material greed. Later on, Lao Zi disguises himself again, this time as an old man, and points out bags of stolen gold just sitting in the forest, practically begging Li to take them and better his life. But once again, Li doesn't even blink. He refuses, saying he is perfectly happy with what he already has. Having proven that he was completely detached from both physical lust and material greed, Li Taiguai passed the tests with flying colors. His reward? Lao Zi hands him a magical dumpling to swallow. The effects are immediate and insane. Li gains endless energy. He's literally never hungry or tired ever again. He discovers he can move with incredible speed, eventually just taking off and flying faster than a swallow. But here's the best part. He didn't use any of this power for himself. He spent the rest of his days flying across the land, defending the poor and the needy. And guys, this brings us to the core philosophical takeaway that is just beautifully woven through all of these myths. Just like Shen Nong eating poison to help the farmers, or Ma Liang sinking the greedy emperor, or Li Taiguai ignoring bags of stolen gold, true immortality and ultimate favor from the gods comes from selflessness. Moral integrity and serving others are the highest virtues you can achieve. As the sources beautifully put it, possessions were meaningless, and he was content. Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. You've just seen how these ancients viewed the cosmos, art, disaster, and virtue. The gods clearly reward those who put the needs of humanity above their own selfish desires. So I have to challenge you with this. If you were handed the elixir of immortality today, right now, what would you do with it? Would you use it to grab power? Or would you use it to serve others? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey and keep exploring.